The next 3 months of global banners that are upcoming are interesting to say the least. Gone are the days of every banner featuring either a limited, a super broken unit, or both. This time banners have units that can reach busted levels, but they need a pairing to do it with, or the banner just has units that are relatively good and usable. So with that being said, let's see what the next 3 months has in store for us. John Bloodborne finally joins the team as a playable operator, and is our first example of needing a paired unit to reach max potential. Ulpianus is a Crusher guard, so he has 0 defense, but has funny HP and attack numbers. OPP's first talent, Inherent Persistence, lets him heal 100 HP when taking damage. Once under 50 HP, he will heal 160 HP. This talent is kinda nothing burger, but it does help keep him alive slightly better. His second talent, Bloodline's Nourishment, increases his max HP by 120 and attack by 30 every time he defeats an enemy. This stacks up to 9 times. Abyssal Hunters receive 50% of these stacks. This is a nice talent to boost OPP's already busted killing power, while also giving even more stats to his Abyssal Hunter buddies. Where OPP shines is with his skills. His skill 3, Paths That Must Be Open, increases his HP by 80% and his attack by 260%. He immediately throws his anchor forward, that stops whenever he either hits an enemy or it reaches the max distance. If an enemy is hit or it reaches max distance, he will deal 160% AoE physical damage and will stun the enemies for 6 seconds. If the tile is deployable, Ulpianus will move to that tile. This skill can be manually deactivated. This skill is what makes OPP so fun to use and kinda busted. With this skill, Ulpianus is able to deal massive amounts of damage while providing CC for your team with the 6-second stun. It also allows him to work around the downsides of Crushers by enabling him to play a hit and run style. You can activate his skill, let him fly halfway across the stage, deal big damage, and if he's taking too much damage, you can deactivate the skill and let him come back to safety to get healed. All of these benefits at a ridiculously low 25 SP cost. However, Crushers hate him since he found this one simple and weird trick that lets him bypass a lot of what is bad about Crushers. Subscribe to find out what it is. Gladia. It's Gladia. When he's paired with Gladia, he becomes an almost unkillable god. OPP also has a very good AFK skill if that is up your alley. Ulpianus is the best stacked stick in the game and will allow you just to face tank every boss in the game. Nymph is a very interesting unit to talk about since she shows merits in 2 different categories, boss killing and silliness. Nymph is our first 6-star primal caster, so she mainly relies on enemies being under Necrosis Burst to function at full potential. Nymph's first talent, Consternation, is when attacking enemies under Necrosis Burst, Nymph will cause enemies to receive an extra 40% elemental damage every second. This lasts until the burst ends. This talent is very good if you can cause Necrosis Burst, since it's 40% DOT true damage to every enemy in the game, including every upcoming boss in the future. Her second talent, Key to the Heart, allows Nymph to increase her attack by 2% whenever an enemy in her attack range undergoes a Necrosis Burst, stacking up 10 times. Since you always want to be proccing Necrosis Burst on enemies, this is another talent that is very good for Nymph, since she's just increasing her pseudo true damage potential. All of Nymph's talents are razor focused on making her a massive damage dealing machine, and that can be seen with her S3. Failure of Grit expands her attack range, increases her attack by 220%, attack speed plus 60, and attacks 2 targets simultaneously. If the enemy is under Necrosis Burst, attacks deal elemental damage. This is her big attack skill, if you can proc Necrosis. This means for Nymph to operate at max potential, you pretty much need Virtuosa, since once enemies are under burst, she can use all her talents and skills at full effectiveness. She will melt anything that is under Necrosis very quickly, making her the best boss killer in the game. Again, if you can proc Necrosis. A quick side note, Nymph is still fun to use even if you don't have Virtuosa to pair with her. Her S2 is very funny and quite a good skill on its own, since it's the only skill that lets her deal Necrosis on her own, so there's that little bonus. Narantuya is the first 6-star loop shooter in the game, meaning they throw projectiles and must wait to get them back before being able to hit enemies again. Narantuya is yet another summer sniper that is both better and more interesting than their banner unit buddy. Naran's first talent, I See I Get It, lets Naran steal 25 attack, capping at 250, and still 20 defense, capping at 200 from the target. This is a nice talent that both boosts her own attack and survivability while also debuffs the enemies, making Naran even harder to kill. Her second talent plays into this survivability aspect even more. Graceful Mirage makes Narantuya have innate 35% Fizz and Arts Dodge, and reduces the accuracy of enemies within the 8 tiles by 20%. This talent pushes Naran into a more defensive sniper that can dodge tank while aiding her allies by making enemies have reduced accuracy, which increases their survivability if they are within 8 tiles of her. While she is a more defensive option, Naran can still output very decent damage with her skill 3. Sun Devourer increases her projectiles to 3, each dealing 130% attack as physical damage. When all projectiles return, she deals 120% physical damage up to 3 enemies in the surrounding 8 tiles of her, and slows them for 1 second. Her skill 3 allows Naran to be a pseudo CC unit by slowing while also doing a decent amount of damage. It also allows Naran to quickly steal all of the defense and attack from the enemies she's hitting, making them both easier to kill and less dangerous if they are able to hit either Narantuya herself or any other operators. She is quite a fun operator to mess around with due to her gimmicks and range. The one and only Queen of Brain Rot is our first 6-star Earthshaker guard, which allows Pepe to do 50% physical damage as AoE when attacking an enemy. Her first talent, Inheritance from the Past. For each enemy Pepe defeats during her skill duration, she will obtain 1 SP when the skill ends, up to a maximum of 14. This is a nice talent to cycle skills just a little bit quicker. While not a crazy amount, it is a nice bonus. Her second talent, Lotus Fragrance, is when she is deployed, all guard operators gain 16% more attack. This is her more impactful talent since it not only increases her own attack, but all the other guards you might have on the field. Pepe's big attack skill is her S3. Timequake increases her attack interval slightly. Her attack increases by 240%. Her attack stuns targets for 0.8 seconds. The duration is increased to 1.5 on the main target she's hitting. After each attack, her AoE expands, and she gains an additional 25% to her own attack, up to 4 stacks. This skill makes use of the Earthshaker's guard trait very well by expanding Pepe's AoE range significantly. The large AoE is a bit hard to use in practice unless you are playing a stage that has large waves of enemies to make use of it. That being said, it is a decent CC skill when you can make use of the expanded AoE, since she can stun all the enemies for a short period of time, giving your team some breathing room by interrupting enemy attacks. With the quick overview of kits done, let's talk pulling plans. These upcoming 3 months are quite nice on the savings, due to these operators needing a pair to operate at max potential. So if you don't have the pair, it is a much easier skip. It is also nice on the savings since all of these operators range from great to okay, and are not the must pulls like we saw in previous 3 months. We will go in CN release order, but do keep in mind that your store likes doing your store's things, and they could change the schedule. As always, these are just my opinions, and at the end of the day, it's your pulls, so pull whoever it is that you want and will make you the most happy. Ulpianus is a pretty good unit on his own. While he does have the drawbacks of being a crusher, his S3 is quite the great skill, and it is pretty fun to see him blast across the stage, all while it being incredibly cheap at 25 SP, which is quite ridiculous for how great the skill is. On his own, Ulpianus lands in the middle of medium priority. However, if you have a built Gladia with her mod, or are planning to build her, he lands at the top of medium priority. Since with her, Ulpianus can just face tank everything in the game straight up, all the while doing massive damage. And for every Abyssal Hunter mod you have built, he becomes even more cracked. Truly, the Abyssal Hunters just get richer. It is to be noted that Ulpianus will receive a rerun in a year's time. Nymph lands at the bottom of medium priority. On her own, she lacks a lot of damage appeal, however her S2 is quite fun and useful with the fear mechanic. If you do have Arturia, Nymph's potential skyrockets due to her essentially becoming the best boss killer in the game. While she does become the best boss killer in the game, Setting both the units up is a bit awkward sometimes due to either boss mechanics or stage layouts. She moves up to the middle of medium priority with Arturia. Narantuya is the better unit of the Summer Limited banner. While she does not reach the levels of previous Summer snipers, she is still quite good, landing at the upper end of medium priority. She's able to dodge tank for your team while stealing stats from enemies, making it easy for her and your team to take them down. She also has a pretty great AFK skill if that is up your alley. Loop shooters are good and interesting, so it is no surprise she's also good and interesting. Pepe lands a high priority only due to being a limited operator. Pepe overall is very alright. She's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but her kit is very simple and doesn't do anything better than any other guard. Due to the oversaturated nature of the guard class, her most valuable asset is not any of her own skills or damage, but her talent that lets her buff all the guards on your team. So while she is not impressive, she can make your already impressive guards even better. As always, I'll put a rough pulling guide over the next 6 months so you can get a visual of what is to come. As you can see, these next 6 months are vastly different from what we experienced leading up to Wizardell. Do keep in mind that Dungeon Meshi collab is coming soon, and it has the real limited TM units. So do save and plan accordingly if you are a collector or really like Dungeon Meshi. With that being said, thank you for watching. If this helped you, consider subscribing since it helps me out. Until next time.